Starbucks, the third place, a temporary placeholder for coffee's final destination. From a hyperactive coffee-eating goat from Ethiopia called Nigel, for which folklore has bestowed as the origin of discovery, an Arabian beverage that has always been strikingly familiar, the New World dumping of perfectly good tea into a harbour, to an American named Howard. Starbucks is a journey worthy of folklore itself, a drink reinvented rather than introduced. A force of will and fortunate timing. Folklore, like branding, is designed to be emotive, often running parallel with the truth, to creatively capture attention. People want commodities, but they desire stories and emotions. That's how you arrive at $5 coffees and a folklorish Ethiopian goat that I creatively named Nigel. The reality is, I don't know the goat's first name or surname for that matter. The story of how Starbucks came to be the global coffee titan that it is today is a twisting amalgamation of two parties that were not always on the same path. Starbucks, the name deriving from the novel Moby Dick, was founded in 1971 by Jerry Baldwin, Zev Siegel, and Gordon Boker at Seattle's Pike Place Market. The company at the time was not in the guise that most people know it today. Rather, Starbucks in the 1970s and early 80s was a broader coffee retailer selling coffee beans and equipment, but not a place to buy a drink. In 1983, Howard Schultz, then director of retail for Starbucks, was on a business trip to Italy when he tried his first espresso. Clearly a pivotal moment in history for Schultz, who was captivated by the beverage, the barista who prepared it, and the romance of the cafe atmosphere. Schultz's words, not mine. With this romance and high profit margin idea, Schultz returned for a conversation with the guys at Starbucks. Unfortunately for him, they were not interested, according to Schultz. However, the Starbucks company timeline does state that Schultz convinced the founders of Starbucks to test the coffee house concept, where the first Starbucks cafe latte is served, which I can only imagine that Schultz and the future Starbucks considered successful, but the original Starbucks founders didn't. Undeterred, Schultz went off on his own, opening an espresso bar called Il Giornale in 1985, which by 1987 had grown to 3 locations. At this point, Schultz went back to Starbucks, but this time with the intention of buying the company. A deal was done, and Schultz now had control of Starbucks. According to Schultz himself, quote, "I never set out to build a global business. I set out to build the kind of company that my father never had a chance to work for, one that treats all people with dignity." End quote. Schultz then unintentionally went from 17 stores in 1987 to 33 stores in 1988, before going public in 1992 with 165 locations, and global with the beginning of Starbucks' international expansion in 1996, with the introduction of stores in Japan and Singapore. What is quite clear when you begin to decipher the Starbucks language to determine reality from corporate storytelling is that Starbucks is very proud of its healthcare benefits for employees, and also the company's stock option program that includes part-time employees. How transformative or pioneering this is to Starbucks employees is maybe subjective, but on the face of it, more investment, as long as it is genuine, and Starbucks calls its employees partners, so it must be, is usually a worthwhile investment. Of course, if Starbucks wanted to really go full Italian, it could give its partners 6 weeks paid holiday every year as well. Just a suggestion. Italy has long been a thorn in the side for Starbucks. As great as the story of romance and Italy and the recreation of the theatre from a land far, far away, the idea that Starbucks would be popular in Italy would no doubt lead to a number of Italian side eyes. Italy literally has great coffee on every corner, and as a result, Starbucks has avoided Italy like the tough kids at the local park. Confrontation is not wise. The shortcut is not worth it. Take the long way home. Always take the long way home.
So maybe you don't go down that way anymore. Maybe you go the long way home.
That's what we talked about. We're going to take the long way home.
But you can't hide forever, especially when the world is watching. In 2018, Starbucks opened its first outlet in Italy, a massive roastery, as they called it in Milan, around a third of a football pitch in size. This homage to selling coffee at 4 times the price of the cafe next door, albeit American portions, is monumental. Starbucks has thrown the kitchen sink at this. It even sells pizza and ice cream, like a desperate haymaker in the 12th round. This is a shock and awe strategy. It appears impressive, and it is likely just what international tourists would love, for the same reason that McDonald's has restaurants in Italy, usually dotted around various tourist attractions and transit hubs. The familiar logo is what these companies do best. The menu in English, travel guide in hand, and socks with sandals. There is a market there, and I wouldn't underestimate a global brand like Starbucks' ability to convert a new generation. A generation that wants to replace the old traditions with something else. Probably not socks with sandals though. Howard Schultz often referred to Starbucks as a third place, a place where people would meet and socialize, other than at home or at work. Much like a traditional English pub, for example, but without the alcohol and occasional fisticuffs. This could easily be written off as more Starbucks corporate speak, but a cultural shift towards what Starbucks had in mind. While the term third place isn't a Starbucks creation, it was leading the way in creating it. The popularity of the show Friends, that started in 1994 and ran for 10 seasons, no doubt helped this along, but this trend for coffee hasn't proved to be a fad, depending on how long fads last. Rather, according to the United States National Coffee Association in 2020, overall coffee consumption is up by 5% across the country since 2015, and the average American coffee drinker drinks just over 3 cups per day. Espresso-based drinks such as cappuccinos, lattes, and flat whites are also reportedly popular among 25 to 39-year-olds. Starbucks has played its part in creating this trend. There's much more competition now than ever, and some of the early product innovations, such as the Frappuccino, which was released in 1995, that's over 25 years now, have strong competition. Product innovation seems to have been subtle, and with a reliance on sales growth popular on Wall Street, this has come largely due to aggressive expansion, and at around the 30,000 location mark globally, the Starbucks expansion strategy that has made it the global powerhouse it is today is running out of room. The future might look more like a PepsiCo style business model with the Starbucks name. What can be learned from Starbucks? Proven leadership. It would be hard to argue against the impact Howard Schultz has had on the success of Starbucks. Yes, you need a lot of things to go your way, but Schultz has clearly served as a driving force when he stepped down from the position of CEO in April 2000 to concentrate on global strategy, which sounds like retirement for powerful people. Starbucks seemed to lose some of its focus apparently. When the financial crisis of 2007-2008 hit, Howard Schultz would return as CEO to turn the ship around. This was essentially a getting back to basics plan, a concentration on making an espresso. He closed stores for a few hours so that Starbucks baristas could be trained in the art of making the perfect coffee. The important caveat here is the stores were closed at 5:30 p.m. I imagine the quietest time for Starbucks, but the headline doesn't focus on this. A clever piece of public relations, and a little trick Starbucks has used since. Interestingly, coffee training and bias training takes about the same amount of time to fix. Owning property. Starbucks does favor property ownership, similar to McDonald's. With a long-term trend of rising property, this helps to increase the asset balance and control rent fluctuations for individual stores. If a store is unsuccessful, Starbucks likes to come in a Secret Service style operation and remove signage and any trace of Starbucks' existence so as not to associate Starbucks with failure. If you find yourself stood outside an empty shop with a reusable coffee cup in hand, that might be why. Starbucks expanded at a rapid rate, and like many rivals of a similar size that favor franchising to expand, Starbucks went public in 1992. The company was relentless in opening new stores, which drives growth and makes it hard for the competition in the market to keep up. Going public does put pressure on a company to be numbers focused. Quarterly results and annual statements can distract from long-term performance. The benefits are there is more control at store level, and Starbucks wouldn't be the size it is today without going public unless going down the franchising route. Often companies, after a period of time and growth, can become detached from the original mission. Bad decisions, poor leadership, a complacent strategy, etc. The problems that inevitably arise from this are that too much damage is done, and it's hard to find the way back. Starbucks has historically been quick to address issues before it becomes too late. As a result, it doesn't require some monumental overhaul to correct course. The faster you can react, the easier it is to get back on track. For Starbucks, the nautical theme is present in more ways than one. A story is what you make of it. A flexible, sometimes fleeting relationship with the truth. A linguistical embellishment can captivate, move, and entertain. A product can sell itself. The right combination of words can make it sell out. Starbucks took what was already there and built the stage, charging for the show. Sometimes you should take the long way home. Sometimes socks and sandals just feels right. Folklore awaits the pioneers and the bold. Just ask Nigel. All things Starbucks. Let me know. Thanks for watching.